My name is Meg Tuohey. Together we'll gather wisdom from a wide range of voices, thought leaders and seekers just like you. Through individual stories, we'll explore multiple categories of wisdom and uncover how the stripes of our experiences, both joyful and challenging and all that lies in between, intertwine to create a rich tapestry of life. So whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Introducing Lauren Fox to the pod, multi-talented, decorated performer with a rich background in singing and acting. Today, she combines her passion for music with her expertise in breathwork, helping her students find a more grounded and supported voice. Lauren's journey into her life and her breathwork, it was far from straightforward. You're about to hear a really incredible journey of healing. A survivor, she calls herself, where she has overcome her addiction to alcohol and drugs. She's processed and healed sexual trauma from trafficking and manipulation. And most recently, she has found acceptance and also wisdom and serenity after being diagnosed with stage 1 emphysema. Lauren, thank you for joining me today on Wisdom Stripes, where we are your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godmothers turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Let's go straight into it, Lauren. What wisdom are you here to share today? When someone is here to listen to this, what wisdom do you want our listeners to come away with from this conversation?
I'm a survivor, in many, many ways. And I would like for our listeners, anyone who has faced serious challenges, trauma, adversity, to know that it is 100% possible to heal from pretty much anything. It just takes work. It takes a lot of work, and it takes time. And sometimes patience and perseverance and a lot of bravery. But I love that, I love that this is about wisdom, because I think about the things that have happened in my life, that some of the unfortunate to others, but not unfortunate to me anymore, things that have brought me here to the wisdom I have today and made me the person I am today. So I think that the message that I want to bring is about taking those things, whatever they are, and number one, not giving them so much weight or so much power over you, or letting them define you, but instead embracing the experiences, embracing even the bad stuff, learning from it, sitting in it and processing it until you can heal from it, because that's where the wisdom comes from.
Wisdom is a build. It's an initiation. It is a growth, a relentless, focused pursuit to gather those wisdom stripes we talk about. Like if you were in a military and you had the stripes, you earn your stripes, which is why we called the pod this. Now, Lauren, I know you've faced many challenges throughout your life, including addiction, sexual violence, and trafficking. Could you share a specific experience or battle scar from your journey that has significantly impacted you?
Absolutely. So when I was a teenager, I had a lot of I was diagnosed with ADHD before ADHD was a thing. and my mother didn't believe in the medicines were not, there was just Ritalin, and she was terrified to put me on it, so she wouldn't do it. And so I not knowing or understanding kind of what was wrong with me, found drugs and started self-medicating, as young people do when you have something like that. Finding something, when you have ADHD, and you find something like cocaine because you're not medicated any other way, and the light gets turned on. It's powerful. And so I grew up in New York City. I started hanging out with older kids, going to clubs, or not even older kids, but adults going to nightclubs. I was part of the whole club kid scene in New York, and I was doing a lot of drugs. And I had just started to be interested in modeling and get a lot of attention and inquiry about modeling. And I met a model who was a little older than me. I was 17 at the time, still in high school. And I met this woman who was, I think, around 21, 22, and she was a model. And we became friends, and very slowly, what I realize now that I didn't, it took me many years, took me far into adulthood and processing it and thinking about the memories and things coming up for me to realize that what she was doing was grooming me, recruiting me. And long story short, she told me, I can help you, and you're so beautiful, and we can, we did this photo shoot, like test shots and it was a lingerie shoot for this well-known photographer in New York. I know now at this point in my life that he was probably in on whatever the thing was, the whole racket, because those were probably what ended up happening is I ended up getting recruited by a very big, prominent New York madam to many very rich men in the city. And those pictures, I'm assuming, were the pictures used to determine whether because I never met her before the first night she put me to work. And so I'm just assuming that's how she knew what I looked like in the first place. But I ended up, on a school night at 17, because I needed money for drugs, working for this woman, for her clients. And they were men that were old enough to be my father. And they knew how old I was. They knew I was in high school. That was part of it. And it was, I had just maybe 3 months earlier lost my virginity, maybe 4 months earlier. So I was new to sex. And what I did emotionally was, in order to be able to do this crazy thing that was so outrageous, was convince myself it's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have anything to do with love. It doesn't have to do with anything. It's just sex. It's no big deal. And what it did was made it so that sex was not connected anymore to intimacy or to love. It wasn't until years later, when I got sober and started to work through all of it, that I realized how much I had disconnected. I would meet somebody, I would fall in love, I would be, completely in love, heart and soul in love. This was in my 20s, with someone, and we would have sex a lot right at the beginning. And then the minute I fell in love, the minute it was, I love this person, I didn't want them to touch me. Like, physically, I just did not want that. I mean, not even touch me. I didn't want to be touched sexually. So, kissing was fine, but I did not want to have sex anymore. Like, like I shut the sex down in these relationships.
It was like there was, when you were in that space at the beginning, before you had romantic relationships with intimacy, when you're in that working space, you disconnected between self and others through sexual intimacy because you weren't emotionally intimate with those people that you were having sex with. And so when you came to a loving relationship, it seems like you didn't want to blur the lines. You just wanted to keep it as a loving space, and you didn't want to put it into another space where it became a job or a chore or a disconnect from them. That kind of makes sense to me. Is that what it was like for you?
Or ugly, I mean, sex to me had become ugly. And to a large extent, because I was young and I was very attractive and modeling and doing all of that, it became a bit of a weapon. Not even a bit. It became a weapon. It just became a tool to get what I needed. For many, many years, for decades, actually, after what happened, I had put all the onus on myself. Like, I did these horrible things, but I was a kid. I was 17 years old. I wasn't even out of high school yet. And what I realized through a mutual acquaintance of ours, friend of ours, Cheryl, was that, she's the one who said to me, "You were trafficked," because I wasn't thinking of it as trafficked. I was thinking of it as I made this terrible choice. I made this choice. I did it all. And I had worked through a lot of it with all the onus and the burden on my choices and the shame that surrounds that. And then once I had it defined and it was like, oh no, okay, this is not, I wasn't old enough really to make that kind of choice responsibly. So then I had a whole other layer to work through, but beautifully, because I had more wisdom to gain from it.
Yes, I do. Lauren, I think it's really important, if you don't mind, to tell us about what the definition of trafficked is, because I feel like it's a word that's around, but I feel like people don't actually stop and say, here's what it is. And I feel like we can kind of see it through the story that you've told. But if you wouldn't mind just giving it to us in like a frame so we all are on the same page.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not an expert on trafficking, but there are different, trafficking can come in different forms. But my understanding is that trafficking is first of all, anyone under age of consent who is coerced in any way or manipulated in any way to have sex for money. Grooming is really a key in it, which is that there are people out there that are incredibly cunning predators. They know how to talk. They know how to love bomb. They, love bombing is like the biggest part of it, where they know how to manipulate people. They find that thing that you really want, or that really fires you up, and they massage that, and they all of a sudden you don't realize that you are being coerced, you are being talked into something.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So we have the definition here of human trafficking. It is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. And essentially that's what you've described. Okay. So thank you for sharing this so openly with us. I would love to know more about how you got through that experience and what resources you drew upon as you were working yourself through that at the tender age of 17.
I was a pretty tough kid. with a really soft underbelly. I mean, I was a very vulnerable, very sensitive kid, but on the outside, very tough. I'm a Cancer sign. That's my sun sign. And, so we're the crab with the tough shell and then the mushy insides. And that's very much how I am. So I really, really did tough it out. I was so much more damaged than I was willing to acknowledge.
Hey there, Meg Tuohey here with a quick and exciting announcement. As a psychologist, coach, and founder of the Wisdom Lab, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals break free from the vicious cycles holding them back and tap into their infinite inner wisdom. If you're tired of feeling unheard, unseen, and stuck in the same old struggles, the Wisdom Lab is the breakthrough you've been yearning for. This on-demand program guides you through a powerful process to shatter emotional barriers, overcome deep-rooted blocks, and experience the profound transformation you deserve. In just 4 hours, you'll gain the tools and insights to revolutionize your life from the inside out. Want to learn more? Click or tap the link in the show notes for all the details. Okay, now back to the episode. So if we were to sit with that for a second, when you are building your way out of your context, your hardship, your pain, because every human has the pain, right? You don't get through life unscathed. So when you're building your way out, you often do go from moment to moment to moment until you get enough relief that there's some segments of your life which have some more freedom in them. And that's coming through from your story. I really understand that part of the wisdom journey. That is where you've hit the pivotal moment of enough's enough. And then what we're going to do is occupy and heal and find the pieces that close those gaps or those loops. And every time we close a loop, there's respite. We can recover a little bit more and get back some of our heart energy, some back parts of our soul or our psyche that have been damaged or split off to protect us. And that is the work at the beginning, I think, of really earning those stripes. And it is hard work. And it's very rewarding because after a while it accumulates, yeah? And we have more and more space to breathe. And that's the stuff, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Do you feel like that was your biggest turning point? Because what we haven't talked about is what you do now and who you are now. Was this your pivotal moment, do you think?
I mean, getting sober was the pivotal, I think the most pivotal moment in my life, because it's not that I don't think, I know that there is nothing else. There would be nothing else for me if I hadn't. I wouldn't have survived. I definitely wouldn't have survived. I know that. I realized I had to take my safety net, which was the drugs and alcohol, away, and then start the real work.
So my next question to you is, it feels like we can hear the build out of the fire, the real crisis. And I can sort of see you standing on your own 2 feet, a little bit out of crisis, mostly out of crisis, let's say that. There's more to be done to build wisdom from there. And I would love to talk about the next phase of your life, when you got yourself out of the crisis, when you had closed enough of those loops to understand how you got here, what you needed to do and your pathway forward. What happened next?
Well, I'll be honest, a lot recovery in general, not even just from alcohol, recovery from any challenge is messy. Life is messy. And I would be lying if I said that I just, eventually worked my way up and everything got better all the time. I made a lot of mistakes. And in fact, I made crazy mistakes in sobriety. I had to learn other lessons and become very accountable in sobriety for mistakes that I made. As long as I stayed sober and I was honest with myself, it was all about, like, they call it rigorous honesty. And as long as I was rigorously honest with myself, I knew that I would be able to learn a lesson and move on. Flashing forward to many years later, I had something happen to me in my 30s that was 30s? No, I'm sorry, 40s, early 40s. That was really pivotal, which is that I was walking down the street in New York in my neighborhood, which is a very nice neighborhood, in broad daylight one day, and I was listening to music, and somebody ran in front of me and grabbed my iPhone, and I held on, and we kind of wrestled a little, and he threw me to the ground, and I broke my collarbone and my finger. And being a tough chica, I got up and I chased him for a block and a half with a broken collarbone and a broken finger before I realized, oh, wow, I'm broken and I'm in a lot of pain and I need a hospital. I ended up spending it was the beginning of the summer, and I ended up spending that whole summer pretty much, it affected my right, and I'm a righty. So I couldn't write. I couldn't do much of anything. I had my arm in a sling because my collarbone was broken, and they thought it would heal on its own, and then realized it was not healing at all and had to go in and deal with it. So I spent about 3 solid months not having use of my dominant side. Collarbone breaks are awful. They're considered one of the most painful breaks in the body. It was constant pain. I also had to take pain pills, which, for someone sober is a very scary thing. As I started to recover, there were things that I really wanted to do that I had talked about doing that I wasn't doing with my life. And I was starting to get very complacent. And I believe that I needed the shakeup. Was the universe's way of saying, wake up. How long are you going to wait? I never hated the guy. He was a young guy, and I never hated him. I never was angry at him. I'm actually very grateful to him today. On the anniversary every year, I usually write something on social media about it, and I express gratitude. I wrote a big poem about it. And I really do feel that it was that pivotal moment I needed to realize, like, life is too short. And there are things that, like, I almost lost the ability of my body to function the way I wanted it to and needed it to. And I fought physically to rehabilitate my body. And then I went like I was on fire towards the things that I wanted to do.
May I ask you, Lauren, what was the gift in that break, the broken collarbone, the broken pinky finger? What did you get from that experience that was the fuel to actually go and do the things? Was it the exposure to so much pain and realizing, oh, well, I can do pain now, so I'll just go and do hard things? Where's the alchemy here?
No, it was the fear, because I really was like, I had frozen shoulder because I had stayed too long in a sling because they thought it was going to heal, and then they ended up having to do surgery. So when I finally went to a physical therapist, I couldn't lift my arm, and I was really afraid. My fingers were mangled. I was really afraid that I wasn't going to come back from it fully. And I was so angry about it. I wasn't angry at the person. I was angry at me, because I was like, there are things I want to do. My person I idolize more than anything else in the world, and the person whose music I sing, Joni Mitchell, got polio when she was 7. she had made a promise to a Christmas tree in the ward. When I recover, I will make something of myself. And I'm getting tearful. You know, I have purpose that I'm not pursuing.
Don't you find it curious, the things that stick with you across your life that one day you need? So you had heard about that story from Joni Mitchell, and then one day you needed it, and then you had a reference point, and it helped build your identity and focus you in the direction that worked for you. And so sometimes we can see our life and see how the points all interconnect. And that feels like a really beautiful wisdom, actually, like a soul kind of wisdom, a spiritual wisdom in a way, where you'd collected that nugget not knowing you would need it. And then here you are using it, and not only using it, it actually guides you on multiple different layers. It's so beautiful.
I feel like if you can look at life and the challenges that you're faced with as lessons, as motivation to overcome. Very recently, this past December, I found out by accident, because I was not symptomatic and wouldn't have found, thank goodness I found out, but I was diagnosed with stage 1 emphysema, which is strange for a singer and a breathwork practitioner. But I had been a volunteer at Ground Zero after 9/11. I had smoked for a little while when I was a teenager, quit pretty young, but then I had volunteered at Ground Zero, and I think the combination of everything and the exposure in my lungs. I also had been exposed to a lot of secondhand smoke in nightclubs. So I have stage 1 emphysema. And I remember finding out and being confused, because I was like, I'm not symptomatic. I don't feel it at all. I sing, I run, I do plenty of cardio. I do breath work. I'm never winded. I don't understand the diagnosis. And my husband was really freaked out and really upset. He cried. And I said, I'm okay. Like, I'm really okay. You know, once you realize acceptance, this is what it is. I can't escape it. It is what it is. This is the situation. So what can I do? What can I do? You know, I'm not going to hide under a rock. I'm not going to, curl under my blanket and give up. You know, I still have things to do. I still have so many things to do.
So a question for you. We have a lot of things we've talked about today. We've talked about stage 1 emphysema. We've talked about you being a survivor. We've talked about you being a breathwork practitioner and a singer who's been written up in the New York Times. We've talked about you being trafficked and used for or exploited for profit by someone who groomed you at a very vulnerable age. We've talked about your ADHD. We've talked about your addiction. We've talked about your love and strong relationship with your dear husband. We've talked about lots of different facets of you, and I'm very grateful for that. My question to you is, how do you organize that within yourself? What is your identity with all of those parts of you? Sometimes for some people, those parts, one of them can be more dominant than another and throw the balance out. I can't help but feel when I listen to you, yours are relatively resolved in terms of balance and integration. But can you tell me about that, your identity, how you organize this information?
Thank you. I honestly see myself as a warrior. I'm proud of today. I am proud of what I have experienced and what I have overcome. And I'm proud of the way I handle the things that come at me. The main reason that I became a breathwork practitioner is that I love helping people, holding space for people. I love watching and being a part of the healing journey for other people, because I know it's possible. And because it's exciting to watch another human being get that gift.
It is. It's a great privilege and a great blessing. And it's like it makes the pain or the context of suffering and confusion that is required before wisdom grows, it makes it kind of worthwhile when you can ease the pain or shine a light on someone else who has an equivalent or similar context, who is then able to feel maybe less alone, feel like they've got someone who understands, and feel like you can provide something that gives them that first closed loop. It's like it's part of that circle of giving and receiving. And really that's what this podcast is about transferring wisdom and seeing that you can also belong to a group of people doing the work. Because if you're listening here, you're doing the work, just like Lauren is, just like I am. We are here doing the work and sharing the wisdom so that we start that intergenerational transfer so that it's easier, so it's less hard. You're a pioneer in a way, Lauren Fox. You started a long time ago. Now, I have a last kind of couple of questions for you. Maybe the main one I have is, do you feel as though there is still scars yet to fully heal? Do you feel like there is another step in your journey that is yet to begin? Because I feel like these things, we often never get them done, and we're not meant to. They're like the gift that we get that keeps on giving over life when you can see it through that lens.
It never stops, I mean, that's part of, if you are lucky enough to have a long life, it is a constant lesson and work and the journey, it just doesn't end. I mean, my father passed away in March. I was his everything. He was my everything, but I got 13 years with him that we weren't sure we were going to get. He was sick for a long time. And he lived 13 years longer than expected. I'm doing that healing too, because I think when it first happened, I was devastated. And then I kind of shut down and I thought, is something wrong with me because I'm not really being as emotional as I think I should be? I have to look at the triggers. Like, why did I all of a sudden start crying? What about this memory of my father brought that up for me? But I just think that, those are the things that remind us that we're alive.
Now, I would love to finish up our time together with a question. And it's one of those, and you sort of alluded to it already. So I think we have somehow figured out that we're going to answer this question together. I want you to think of when you're lovely and old and you're in a rocking chair on a veranda and you're just like, you've got some nice plants nearby, maybe a coffee, maybe something just the way you like it. And there's a second rocking chair next to you. And someone you love very much is sitting in it and they're asking to know more about you. And you are going to share something that you hope is like the Joni Mitchell kind of legacy thing, where it's going to guide them somehow when you're gone. What is the thing, with all that you've learned about yourself and life and interactions in life, what is the thing that you would love to give to that person sitting in the rocking chair beside you, wanting to know more or wanting to know what the thing is?
I have a niece who is 17, and she's actually staying with me right now up in my house and about to go to college in the fall. But I think that the biggest thing, the thing that I would stress to her more than anything else is, regardless of the things you've done or the way you feel today, find that thing that helps you love yourself. Find that thing that makes you as a human being unique and special.
Yeah, it's the gift, isn't it? Lauren, it has been the most wonderful conversation with you. I was thinking, how would we, because there's lots of different types of wisdom. I was thinking, what kind of wisdom would these stories weave their way through? Because, there's intellectual learned wisdom, there's emotional wisdom, there's practical wisdom, there's that spiritual wisdom piece with the Joni Mitchell that we talked about. You know what I think the wisdom is potentially here, interested in your opinion, experiential wisdom, where you've gained your wisdom through direct personal experiences and observations over time, and it's all woven together. And it's now in the work that you do, it's in the life that you live, it's in the relationships that you hold. It sort of is the container that you operate from. Would you agree?
Exactly. I do, there's that term shadow work. That's very in the wellness world. It's a big term, but it's so true. You've got to. I did a fire walk years ago, and so I literally walked through the fire. But you have to do that in life. You have to walk through. You have to challenge yourself to, all right, I'm going to walk on fire. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to trust that I'm going to be okay. And that on the other side of it, I will have learned something.
And if you think about your life and my life and other people's lives, most of us walk through fire. It might have different contexts. It might have different experiences that have happened. But to us, it feels like fire. And the only way through is to walk across bit by bit, where the light turns on and you understand just as you need to take that next step or just after you took that next step. And I really want to normalize that. That is how you gather your wisdom. You got to walk on the fire. And I love how you shared all your fires of different colors and shapes and sizes and ferocities. And I love to feel and see how happy you are in your life in 2024. Thank you for being here with us on Wisdom Stripes. It has been such a joy to get to know you and to walk through your path and to learn from you. So thank you for offering your wisdom to all of us today.
Thank you for asking me, Meg. I adore you, and I just you're so incredibly wise and insightful, and I'm just so grateful for our friendship.
Well, that was Lauren Fox. What an inspiring conversation. I feel so lucky we got to hear her story. So we journeyed through her experiences, and I want to highlight some key areas I know we can all learn from. You see, Lauren's story, it's marked by repeated struggles, facing obstacles in various forms, being different throughout her schooling, seeking joy in extremes that spiraled into addiction and eventually led her down the dark path of sexual trafficking. We saw her perseverance when she broke her collarbone and she had that experience of really waking up and starting to drive towards her unmet goals. And she did it with focus and deliberate attention. We saw another challenge when she had the diagnosis of stage 1 emphysema. And Lauren described this early diagnosis as a wake-up call that allowed her to alter her lifestyle and truly make the most out of life. On Wisdom Stripes, we hope to inspire 1% better after every interview, even if that's a recognition of the journey you've been on and not the destination. So I decided I'm going to make today's Wisdom Stripe around identity and the meanings you make about your adverse experiences and who you are in relation to those experiences. Lauren, she's a self-identified survivor. We heard her use that word in the first few minutes. And a warrior. We heard her just now say that. These identities, they've served her to find her pathway through the obstacles of her life. So my invitation is for you to consider your identity. How do you see yourself with regards to the adverse experiences that have happened to you? Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on @MegTuoheyOfficial and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.